Hard to believe we're in Tokyo. Oh yeah, it's fresh. That bird is always here. Bring some bug spray and don't skip this forest. The little puddle of water you see behind me might not look like much, but it might be the source of one of Tokyo's most significant bodies of water. Because from here and along the little dry creek bed that leaves from this puddle of water flows the Ochiai River, which we are going to walk along from its spring all the way down to the point where it meets the Kurome River and effectively becomes just an affluent of another bigger river. And speaking of the spring, I know this water doesn't look super clean. It's kind of muddy. There's a lot of sediment in it. But if you just cross the road where it is, you can clearly see water appearing out of nowhere. And there's even little fish in this puddle right here, which means it's probably pretty clean, right? Just a stone's throw away from the source of the river, there is a shrine that's almost 400 years old dedicated to Emperor Ojin. So I'm just gonna quickly hop in there, make a donation to bless us on this little trip that we're taking along the river, and be on my way. That was interesting. The rope that you're supposed to ring at the beginning of your prayer was attached to the wall, and I've come to realize this is the first time I asked myself why that is. If you know why, please let me know. You might be wondering whether the river could start from over there. Technically, yes. There is a sort of greenway that collects rainwater, and there are others above the slope over there, some on private land. And apparently they were flowing more regularly in the past, but in the 90s, some renovation work was done all along this river, and they've considerably dried up. So as far as I can tell, the spring is under that bridge right here, and the Ministry of Natural Resources agrees with me because they put up this sign. Now, if you read Japanese, you'll notice that the top of the sign says first class river or top rank river or something like that. So that's the first thing I'd like to touch on as we start walking along the top part of the river, which right now just looks like a green park. First class rivers, or class A rivers, are rivers of significant importance either economically or from a conservation point of view. In Tokyo, you'd immediately think of the Arakawa River or the Tama River as significantly important, but rivers such as these are also class A rivers. As we get to this bridge, the river has already started to flow. You can kind of see it snaking its way in the greenery, and we're gonna go that way because I think that's the way the water is going. Of course, that's in contrast to B-class rivers, which are of a lesser importance, maybe more local impact than regional or national importance. Still cool though. And fun fact, Shiga and Saitama only have first-class rivers. There's no B-class rivers in those prefectures. They're the only ones like that. And Okinawa, unfortunately, doesn't have any first-class river. Still worth a visit though if you want. There you go, that's where the water sort of reappears, goes along there, and I think it also appears here in this puddle before quickly disappearing into these weeds and reeds. The river has been sort of canalized over the years, but With examples like what I'm seeing around me, you can still see how free-flowing they used to be. This river, the Yochiai River, is part of the Arakawa River watershed on the Musashino Plateau. The Musashino Plateau is where most of Tokyo is built. And that's an area rich in springs. And you can see that that small river, we were just down there, we can still see it, but little affluents like this one or one like here that's coming from there, they quickly feed into that river and it grows fast. Look at how big that bridge is compared to the one we just crossed over there. Just up the road from that bridge, there is a Jizo statue. These Jizo statues are the little statues that you see often with the red bib and a red hat. And they were often erected in memory of children gone too soon. Now, it's not completely related to the river that we're seeing, but since we're here, let's talk about this Jizo. It was built in 1575, so it's pretty old, and as you can see, it's very well maintained. Now, this Jizo is said to have been particularly effective in granting wishes, especially curing children who cry at night. And there was a practice that was to borrow the Jizo's kimono, put it on the children who cried at night, and in return, knit a new one and adorn this statue with the new kimono that you knitted. One more interesting thing that we can say about this Jizo is that since it's at the intersection of three different roads, it used to serve as a sort of a signpost indicating where you were. So before postal codes and house numbers, this was how you got around. One thing I forgot to mention about first-class rivers is that during rainy episodes, those are the ones most likely to flood. Now, this river may collect rainwater just like any other. However, on a day like today, when it hasn't rained in a few days, all the water you see here is spring water, which explains why it's so clear. You can see all the fish, all the wildlife in the river. So the river keeps flowing peacefully for quite a while like that, crossing many bridges and occasionally being fed by an affluent or two like this one you see behind me, until it eventually reaches the next area of my video, which is the main reason I decided to film here, and that is the Minamisawa Conservation Area. Now, all this land next to me is not just a park, it's actually a protected area. And the reason for that is that there are 4 natural springs that together produce about 10 tons of natural fresh water per day. The little stream you see here is not the Ochiai River, it's actually most of those 10 tons. And there's already a pretty good output. Now, it continues to go there and eventually reaches the Ochiai River, and on it goes until the ocean. So the idea that you might get to see the very origin of a river, the first few droplets of water that eventually will reach the ocean, is very tempting. It's a cool concept. But I'm here to temper your expectations, because unless you have special authorization, this is about as close as you'll get to the source. And the reason for that is that everything you see is behind the fence. Conservation, of course, is the name of the game, but also because 2 of the 4 sources of water, 2 of the 4 springs, are on land that belongs to the Tokyo Waterworks Bureau. There's a giant, I don't know if you can see it, okay. There's a giant water tower behind me, like 23-meter tall water tower. And the utility company doesn't take water directly from the spring, it lets the springs flow, but it digs next to the spring into the water table and collects about 3,500 cubic meters of water per day. It then mixes that spring water with purified water that's been treated by another plant at a ratio of 1:1 and produces 7,000 cubic meters of fresh water per day. So if you drink a glass of water here in this city, half of it will be like drinking spring water. Okay, now that I've said that, I wonder if this isn't one of the springs, because there's no water anywhere on this side, but you can clearly see it flowing from here, and then there's a little stream that goes down, gets a bit bigger, and grows as we move along the path all the way up until that bridge where it eventually meets the other stream, which that one you can't see the spring. It's on the Waterworks Bureau land. There's still a little rope that tells you to be mindful of the nature where you walk. So we're gonna stay on the path. But I was gonna say, even if you don't see the spring, which I think I might have, but without seeing the spring, you might still want to come here. And the reason for that is that these 4 springs in this little park, along with the Ochiai River that we're following for this video, are the only 2 places in Tokyo that made the Japan's top 100 significant water bodies list. Allow me to interrupt myself for a minute because I want to clarify something. See, as I'm editing this video, I remember that I had forgotten my notes on the day I was filming, and so I missed a few details. The main thing I forgot to mention is that there are actually 2 lists with famous bodies of water in Japan. The first list is the top 100 remarkable bodies of water of the Showa era. The second list is the top 100 significant bodies of water of the Heisei era. So there are 200 famous rivers currently. There will be a new list for the Reiwa era, which is the era we're currently living in. Eras basically correspond to the reign of an emperor in Japan, and they end when that emperor passes away or steps down. That's all I had to say about it. Back to the video. And I almost forgot to mention that next to the stream, there is a very nice shrine that you can visit. You can't miss it. You have to pass in front of the shrine if you want to explore this little park. There's a wasp in these trees that keeps dropping other wasps, and the dude is huge. This is one of its victims, and it's pretty small compared to the wasp that I just saw. Alright, so I took that as a sign that it was time for me to get going to the next part of the video, which was a surprise. At least it really was the first time I went there and found it. Now, to get there, you stick to the same side of the river you were already on, and you have this nice little walk. But if you feel inclined to cross the river and check out the side streets on the other side, there is a very nice temple, which is worth your while if you're into that kind of culture or buildings. We're about halfway along the length of the river, and this is what it looks like now. Quite a steady stream, still crystal clear. It's very beautiful. And I've seen lots of people upstream playing in the water, refreshing themselves. Of course, there were lots of kids, so I didn't want to film there, but it really made me want to try and see for myself how refreshing that spring water is. So I'm gonna dip my toes in. Oh yeah, it's fresh. Very refreshing. Feels a little cold at first, but I I said this is just right. Calmly refreshed. A crawfish claw. We'll add that to the list of local wildlife and be on our way. Time to move on to the last two parts of the video. The quietness, the bird songs, and the surrounding bamboo forest make it hard to believe we're in Tokyo. In fact, I'm willing to bet that the springs, the river, the bamboo forest that we see here are pretty far from the image that most people have of Tokyo before visiting. Now, granted, we're not downtown, but just a few minutes from here is a train station that will bring you to Ikebukuro, which is on the Yamanote line, one of the main train lines that goes through all the important hubs of downtown Tokyo. And you can get there in about 25 minutes. Now, this bamboo forest has over 2,000 bamboo trees, and it keeps renewing itself. You know, it's maintained, of course. You often find, old bamboos that have been cut down. And in the spring, you'll see bamboo shoots. And yeah, this little bamboo forest also has a stream with a spring. There are more springs along the Ochiai River, probably more than we can visit at least more than we can visit in a day. And the forest is on the side of a hill, so it goes up and down with little rest areas, little stairs, it's lovely. It's really a great place to spend a few minutes. Let me just see where that path leads. Need to go step on the stones. And okay, Tokyo countryside. Very cool place. Come with me. This little pond is also a spring. You can see the water coming from under there, and you can even hear it. This spring is also blessed with crystal clear waters, little fish swimming in there. I saw a crawfish earlier, and of course its location is fantastic in the middle of a bamboo forest. And one of the last notable things that you might want to check out is this mini shrine. It is very common to find little shrines or even big ones next to bodies of water or rivers. There's several reasons for why that might be. The body of water or the river might be sacred. It is also a waterway for dragons and other goddesses to move, so these shrines are often dedicated to these as either protection or blessings. Another thing is just purely coincidental, is that rivers often marked boundaries between villages and farms and etc. And often the shrine would be located at the boundary of the village as a way to grant protection when you enter or leave the area. So the placement next to the river is coincidental. Here, I don't think that's a coincidence that the shrine happens to be a stone throw away from a spring, a freshwater spring that might have been important. And I can see that it's still maintained. There are still, people putting coins in the shrine, and it looks old but in good shape. Finally, just because there's water and a shrine right here, it doesn't mean that this place is protected against all disasters. Apparently, in August of this year, there was a fire in this forest. So that's a good time to remind everybody who wants to visit to exercise caution, especially in the summer months, but also in the drier time of the year. We are now almost at the end of our little trip. We are definitely at the end of the loop through the bamboo forest. I'm just gonna, that's where we entered right there. I'm just gonna get myself a drink and then I'll show you the place where the river ends. I appreciate everything about this place: the bathroom, the vending machine, the pet bottle disposal. If you've ever been stuck bringing back home tons of plastic bottles, then you know this is a welcome sight. Interesting point about these train tracks. That's the Seibu Ikebukuro line, which we talked about just earlier. And if you pay attention, just before you arrive at Higashikurome, which is the train station right here, you can have a really nice view of Mount Fuji. As well, from the station itself, there is one window with a particular street that will give you a view on Mount Fuji on a clear day. I don't think you would see it today, but you know, if you are in the neighborhood or you use that station, just don't forget to check it out. By now, the Ochiai River has grown quite a bit. It is not the quiet little stream or even the dry creek bed that we saw earlier. There is a lot of water moving this way, but this is the end of the line for us. It is the place where the Ochiai River to my left meets with the waters of the Kurome River to my right. And it might not be super evident, but the two waters do not mix quite well, at least not in the beginning. The waters of the Ochiai River, up until that point, are still 100% spring-fed waters, whereas the waters of the Kurome River on the other side are part spring water, part rainwater, part treated water from a bread factory and a Coca-Cola plant. That being said, the waters are in no way dirty. It is still a haven for wildlife. You can see a heron behind me, and the waters are clear enough that you can see koi and other fish species in the Kurome River. And since the Ochiai River that we've been following since the start of the video no longer exists, I want to give you a few parting shots of the new main character, the Kurome River. This is the main waterway from here up until the Shingashi River, where it flows into the Arakawa River and eventually the ocean. Now, I just have time to hop to the station over there, get a nice cup of coffee at one of my favorite cafes, and I suppose it is time for me to thank you for your attention and for watching this video.